All right, everybody, we got another very special guest for you, a returning special guest. Very welcome back to the show, David Whalen. Welcome,
Hey,
David.
hey, Chris, thanks for having me back on again. I really appreciate it.
Always like talking to you, man. So, I'm not really sure when you have time to sleep. I know you have a day job and you're putting on all these awesome comics. Question number one: when do you sleep?
My parents always taught me to multiply my time, not divide it. So, yeah, I try to usually get a good night's sleep every day, but it really is about just utilizing my time as best as I possibly can.
Very good. And then, Tamara doesn't know too. Maybe you haven't heard the other multiple interviews we've done with you, but David also has a family, and I don't think they see him. I'm convinced that he's just stuck in a basement all day doing comics. But
I stick my head out every once in a while to wave to them.
just to make sure that they're still there.
Yeah, and they're like, "Okay, Dad, go back in. It's fine. Go back in."
So I think a good place to start is you've got this long-going series, The Offspring. I know you took a little break from it to do some other projects, but that will be coming back soon. So maybe start with a quick synopsis of what that book is, and then we can kind of get into the future of it.
Sure, yeah. The Offspring is about four troubled young adults, 20-somethings, who are mentally connected to each other. They also have a shared traumatic past that they all met at a alternative school and found out pretty quickly that they were connected to each other. They also found out that they were magnets for monsters and crazy people and craziness that they are constantly trying to avoid but cannot avoid. So it turns out that these four troubled youths are connected to the universe more than as well as themselves. So as we get into where I'm starting season 3 right now with issue 26, they've just started jumping through time, fighting a man called the Eternity Man, who is pulling them through time further back and further back and further back to be able to, I don't want to give too much away, but to be able to utilize the Offspring's power to be able to control time better.
How does it feel now? Like, I think the first time we talked, you were still fairly, you were still introducing the Offspring. You were maybe a couple issues in. Now you've got like 6 volumes of it. You're in the 20s. Yeah. I know you still got a lot more to go. How does it feel being this far into it?
Yeah, it feels really good to know that I'm officially halfway through. 50 issues is what I have always planned for this. It feels really good to be able to have utilize not only the story and not only be able to create the thing, but to be able to tell a story that I'm really proud of with characters that I think have grown and changed in a common sense way based off the stories. I've always said that the monsters are more like analogies for how we deal with things and how these characters deal with things in their lives, problems that can't just be solved by punching the bad guy or defeating the monster. So it really feels good to be able to tell this story with these characters who have real world problems. Who have gone through real trauma, and to be able to have them grow and change, and to be able to get closer to each other. Somebody asked me the other day, what if you had one word to be able to describe all of the titles that I've come out with? It really is about family. Whether it's a family that we are born into or a family that we make for ourselves. It really just is about how these people treat each other, care for each other, fight with each other, and how they grow together to be able to get through whatever it is they're trying to get through. And to be able to show that through the Offspring means a lot to me, to be able to tell these stories and be able to get to draw cool stuff like monsters and fights and time travel, and to be able to flex those muscles as a creator is really super fun and rewarding.
Yeah, and what I find interesting about your let's say business model, I know it's kind of a naughty word, but is we get a lot of people on the show, a lot of people I know working in this industry that do like Kickstarter or Indiegogo or Zoop or one of these things, and you're publishing them directly to Amazon.
Yeah.
I've probably asked this before, but it's worth going over again. Why that route over a crowdfunding platform?
Yeah, I'm not against crowdfunding. When I first started, my goal was always just to get content out, just to make content that I'd be proud of, and it was always in the back of my mind. Once I get enough content out, that I'd probably do a Kickstarter. I'd probably do some kind of crowdfunding in some way, shape, or form. And then the more I got into it, 25 issues of The Offspring, 2 100 plus graphic novels, a 4-issue miniseries, and multiple one-shots. I just kind of felt like it was more fun to just create the content. I'm a one-man band for the most part. I've been super lucky to be able to bring in some collaborators on certain things, whether it's writing or colorists from time to time, or things like that. But for the most part, I'm a one-man band, so it really just costs me time to be able to put these things together. I think I work fairly quickly and try my hardest not to to still have it be the best possible book that I can produce. The quality, I don't think I don't think my quality struggles because of the amount of content I put out. I'm super proud of all the pages I put out, while still always trying to grow and change and get better. But really, it really for me is just about using the time, like we said, using the time wisely to be able to create that content. And right now, with halfway through The Offspring, I'm still focused on the content. Kickstarting will probably happen. Crowdfunding will probably happen. I just want to make sure I get my story out.
Have you seen like a decent audience going through Amazon?
Yeah, I do actually pretty good through Amazon. I've got most of my books on like Global Comics, also things like that. But I get a lot of traffic through Amazon. I'm not going to be able to retire anytime soon, but it's enough to where I'm like, some people are reading this. Let me keep going. And it really is like when you feel that like, oh my gosh, this is so much work. Why am I doing it? Which every creator goes through from time to time. Yes. Then I get that email from Amazon saying, these are the books you sold this month. I'm like, okay. Let's keep going. Let's keep getting it out there. And it really is that ebb and flow of trying to make sure that I'm as excited to put the books out as I hope people are to read them. And it hasn't really waned much in the years that I've been doing this.
That's one thing I've always felt like the comic creator and my side, that whether it's media, podcasting, whatever, when you get that, when you finally know that somebody cares, when you finally know somebody's digesting the content and enjoying it and like it's something they look forward to. Yeah. I think that's the greatest feeling of all, personally.
It really is fun. From some of the cons I do, and I haven't been able to do a lot of cons. It was funny, before COVID hit, I was raring to go for like 4 or 5 cons, and then COVID hit, and it just hasn't been able to. I haven't been able to bounce back to be able to get to those cons as much as I want to. But there's still a couple that I do, and I love meeting the people at the cons. That physical, that's actual, like being there, connection with them. And there are oftentimes that people will buy the book there and come back to me the next day and said, hey, I read volume 1 and 2 of The Offspring last night and I loved it. It was great. I'm going to pick up volume 3 and 4. I said, great, let's do that. And go online and tell everybody how much you loved it. And they, and it's those communications also that kind of keep me going as a creator. It's being a one-man band. It can be a little isolating from time to time. So I really just try to make sure that I communicate and as much as I possibly can with the people who are supporting me, which is the fans, and I love it.
That's something I hear from a lot of creators. Like when somebody comes to your table and buys, like, even they just buy issue 1, they're like, okay, like let's try this out, and then they come back like, I have to have the rest of it. Like that was so good.
Yeah.
I haven't met a single creator that's not like, that's the greatest. That's why I go to cons. Right there is that feeling.
It definitely, and when it's a 12 or 13-year-old kid who also loves comics and loves drawing, that adds the double cherry on top to be able to say, that it might be something that helped start them the idea of wanting to be able to create. So funny you say that too, because the reason that I started all my one-shot series, and I have 6 24-page black and white one-shots out right now, all varying genres, all different stories. But the reason I started that one-shot series was to be like a bridge, because I understand as an independent creator, a lot of times people are like, oh, I got issue 1 and 2, but issue 3 and 4 won't come out for another 10 years or whatever it is, just because of the logistics of what it is we do and how we do it. It's very difficult. So I very early on knew that I had a couple other stories in my brain that would be one shot. So I just made them and put them out, hoping that they'd be a bridge for people to, one, see what kind of stories I draw, see my art style, see if they like what I'm doing. And then hopefully use that to be able to say, well, I like these one shots. Let me give The Offspring a try. And hopefully stick with me through the whole run. 50 issues is a lot for an independent comic book creator that's in my position. And I'm halfway there. So to be able to create that bridge for people, I think was really, really important.
Yeah, I always feel one-shots and anthologies are great places for creators to jump into, because I always use this for like the big 2 creators, but it works for independent as well. Yeah. Like when you buy like the Marvel Christmas anthology or whatever, and you've got all these people who are like just getting in and pretty fresh, you never heard of them. It's very rare that like a Jason Aaron is a part of one of those books, and you get to meet these new creators and see like, oh, like I really like that story by that person. Mm-hmm. And then you can look out for that name later on. And one shots serve the same purpose. Like, oh, I can dive into a one shot. Like, it's a lot easier than diving into somebody's brand new like 8-issue series and being like, am I really willing to commit to 8 issues on something I'm not sure about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
that's great. So speaking of one shots, you have a new book coming out, or it is already out.
It's already out. Yeah, it came out last month.
And it's kind of a one shot, but it's a graphic novel, correct?
Yeah, 135 pages. A sci-fi action adventure of aliens and starships and alien worlds and a whole bunch of cool stuff going on. It really was a labor of love, and like I said, I took about a year off of The Offspring to be able to put this one shot together, and it came together really well. It took me a little bit longer than I thought it was going to take me, but it was worth it because I love the finished product, and I'm getting a lot of good feedback on it. So it's great.
So that project is Layton Lightspeed. You gave a little bit of a taste there, but what can we expect from the book?
So it really is a book, like I said, action adventure, but at the heart of it, it's about this character, Layton Lightspeed, and his daughter. Layton Lightspeed is an 87-year-old scientist who's having a lot of health problems. The world that they live on and the surrounding worlds in their sector, in their galaxy, just went through an epidemic, a plague, so topical for what's going on in our world. And it destroyed a good portion of the population. For one of the planets in that system, the cure ended up killing more people than it did for other planets in the population. So that alien race has been trying to rebuild their population. And one of the generals of the military has been essentially kidnapping scientists to work on cloning techniques to be able to clone and to be able to rebuild their population. They find out that Layton Lightspeed has successfully created a cloning system that works very rapidly, a rapid cloning system. So they go to essentially take him. As they go to take him, Layton Lightspeed, the 87-year-old scientist, has a heart attack. His daughter, who is her name is Laxi, short for Galaxy Lightspeed. She is a scientist also working with her father. She downloads his consciousness into a clone of himself. The clone, because of the time restraints, didn't have time to be able to grow to full maturity. So he downloads his 87-year-old consciousness into the clone of a 9-year-old boy. So, and from there, it's a couple things. Trying to run from this alien general who's trying to kidnap them to be able to reclone their population. And also trying to hold it together as himself as an 87-year-old man trapped inside a 9-year-old boy.
Very interesting. I always like that trope of like the old man or old woman stuck inside a younger body, and like the difficulties that come with that.
Oh yeah, I definitely took, from Big and Like Father Like Son, the old 80s stuff right there, vice versa, that kind of stuff. There's some fun stuff in there like that, but really as the story continues, it becomes more about Laxi, Galaxy Lightspeed, and how she deals with the loss of not only her father, who's cloned into this 9-year-old boy, but also she had lost her mother a few years back, and that becomes an integral part of the story as well.
Do you see, like, is this the one time you're going to jump in this universe? Like, it's an OGN that you enjoyed doing, and that's the story you want to tell, or do you see more coming out of this?
There's always more there. I try to make sure that with every story, especially if it's something that I really believe in, which is most of the characters that I've created and the stories that I've told, I always have a lot more backstory for them, or a lot more that they could do. So while the book ends, I think in a really cool, good way, there's an opening. There's an opening for a next chapter, and it really depends on how well it sells. It's doing pretty good now, but like I said, it takes a year to be able to create these things, and with The Offspring, season 3 starting here pretty soon, it would take me a little bit of time to get it out. But if people are clamoring, I'll make the time.
Less time for the kids.
They're almost grown now. They'll be fine.
I like I mean, you get me right away with sci-fi. Like, I'm a big sci-fi guy. So as soon as you jump into that, and it almost sounds to me like you're trying to do like a Space Odyssey thing, like a Flash Gordon or Star Wars, but from like a little kid's perspective.
Yeah, it definitely has, for me, the idea of for me, the concept was a couple things. It was how I'm an old man, but I still feel like a 12-year-old sometimes. I'm sure that's most people's experience. I still watch He-Man. I still love comic books. All those things. Our childhood is still embedded in us. So for me, it really was about kind of playing with that idea of, if you were able to go back, how would you be able to handle it? But it also for me deals with how we don't deal with aging very well in our society. People, getting facelifts and constantly putting on makeup, or trying to, be younger than we are. And for me, I think that's one of the problems that we have in society. With age comes experience. And with that age comes that knowledge that we could be using to guide the younger generations. But instead, we're trying to constantly act like we're still the youngest generation when we're clearly not. Age is a constant. Time is a constant. So I really wanted to play with that idea also about how we don't cope with aging, and how we don't cope well with death, which is inevitable.
Yeah. I don't think I've told the story on the show, but I've told it like privately to friends and everything. So first, whenever someone asks me, like, now that I'm in my mid 30s, and like I work with people much younger than me in some cases, and I've been asked, like, how does it feel? And it's like, I still feel like I'm 16. Like, up here, nothing's changed. I still want to go skateboard. I still want to read comics. I still want to play video games. Like, like, that has not changed. But I did have this moment where I went to a store in the mall, and it's a store I've gone to since I was 14, 13 years old. And I went in there, and first of all, everybody looks like an infant. And then they start talking, and I'm like, I think I have to Google what you just said to me because I don't know what the fuck you just said to me.
Yeah. You start using words like whippersnapper.
Oh, dude, that mental state for 16, it went from 16 to 92 real quick.
Real quick. I went up there. I try to, as a teacher, sometimes I hear the cool lingo and the cool whatever. So I went up to my kid. My son is about to graduate high school. My daughter is about to be a junior in high school. And I went up to him, and I don't know if you've seen this, where they go, "What's up, brother?" And they do this whole thing, and they do like a thing. It's a whole thing, at least where I am in upstate New York. Mm-hmm. And I did that just to see their reaction, just to get their reaction. They're like their eyes could not have rolled any harder. They did. They rolled. They're like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, don't ever do that in front of people." It was, oh, you're so embarrassing. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess I'm not as cool as I think I am.
Dude, if I ever have kids, I'm gonna be doing it to them all the time. When I drop them off to school, it's gonna be like whatever the lingo is there. It's like, yeah, bro, let's go.
Yeah, it's so fun. It's so fun.
That's great. I am excited about the book. It looks a lot really cool. Like nice. You're hitting a lot of things that are right down my alley in terms of the sci-fi, the space odyssey, and I like they have a theme going on too. Like I think it's a lot of things a lot of creators miss along the way is they have this cool story to tell, but like, why are you telling the story?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, what's the purpose behind it? Like, yeah, it's really cool to tell Die Hard and a Krispy Kreme, but like, why are you telling Die Hard and a Krispy Kreme?
Sure. Yeah, I try to always make sure that I hit the themes of whatever it is, the underlining concept or theme that I'm trying to tell. I always really try to make sure that I try not to shove it down the reader's throat, but I try to have it in the creases, try to have it between the lines of we're all going to get old. We're never going to, nobody's ever going to be here forever. And the idea of making those connections and not trying to be perfect because nobody is, or not, or accepting your flaws or whatever the concept is. I try to always kind of weave it in and out and have it in there for people to know, because for me, it wouldn't be fun if the characters weren't ridiculously flawed. And if they didn't constantly have to jump through hoops, constantly have to fight through adversity like we do in the real world.
Yeah, what's the story without character building? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like it's obvious, but it's always worth saying. Like my two favorite things are character building and dialogue. And like if your story doesn't have that, then you're gonna have a hard time. Like I've read, seen, just consume many media that's just world building. It's like, okay, your world's cool, but like, why am I here?
Yeah, there's a great example of that is Captain Picard from Star Trek: The Next Generation. I think he's a great example of that. The first 2 seasons, it was all, that nobody fights with each other in the Star Trek world. Everything's great. All the antagonists are from outside, and coming in. But once they started with Captain Picard becoming Locutus, I think that started to get them realize that these characters can have trauma. These characters can have faults and still be inside of this world that is better or works better for all people rather than just for the top, whatever, 2% or whatever it is. So I think that, and especially after the last season of Picard, I think they really brought him full circle as this perfect diplomat and perfect captain. And he's no sense of humor, and all the way around to a human being who in the end just wanted to be loved and give love.
That's always important. Like if your character is perfect, nobody's going to connect to it, because every day we're all dealing with some sort of struggle that we're trying to overcome. Yeah. And while we want our media to be some sort of escapism, like I like to live in a world where Daredevil's flying around New York City and solving mysteries and everything. Sure. But at the same time, like what keeps me coming is, the inner struggles that these characters deal with every day. Right. Because even if they may not be exactly what I'm dealing with, I can in some way relate to that character and be like, oh, I could be Batman too, or I could be Daredevil too, because he also has girl problems or whatever.
Yeah, we want to be able to relate to him. I always felt the best character for me, the best character that had that idea was Ted Kord Blue Beetle. I don't know if I could be Batman, but I could be Ted Kord. I could be Blue Beetle. And I think that kind of connection with characters is super, super important. You have to be able to see yourself in it on some level.
Yeah. I've been walking around looking for radioactive waste to douse my eyes in so I can go blind, but that's just nowhere near.
I don't know if that's a good idea, but hey, whatever. It's fine.
Well, hey, it's going to give me the superpower of sight, so it's fine.
Yeah. Don't let random insects bite you. That's probably not the best way to go.
Yeah, where I live, in more Western New York, it's more likely I become Mosquito Man than Spider-Man. So
yeah, it's been bad this year, hasn't it? Jeez.
So David, Layton Lightspeed's available on Amazon right now. When can people also expect for new additions to Offspring be coming out?
Yeah, everything that I've ever put out, you can find on my links to it on my website, correcthandedcomics.com. You can find links for print and digital on Amazon. You can also find most of my books on Global Comics for digital. And the Offspring issue 26 is coming out, fingers crossed, unless something crazy happens, coming out mid-May. And I'm hoping for 27 to follow up fairly quickly by the end of June. Again, if something happens, maybe early July. So I'm going to attempt still to get, it was always my goal to get 5 or 6 issues of The Offspring out every single year. And if I can do that, I'll still be on track to be able to get season 3 done within 2 years. So again, the 3/4 of the way through my 50 issue run. So super excited for people to see it. The time travel stuff that is happening right now, I think is super, super cool and super fun, and lots of different stuff happening. I can't wait for people to read it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be great, man. And we got the website and everything. Any social media that people should follow you on?
Facebook and TikTok and Twitter or X or whatever they're calling it now. Instagram. If you look up Correct Handed Comics, you'll see that blue hand pop up. For most of it, give me a like, follow, comment. Tell me you loved it. Tell me you hated it. Whatever. Just give me a comment.
And everybody out there watching and listening, in the show notes down below, I'll have links to David's work, his website, so you can just click on those and check it out. And make sure you do, because it's all good stuff. David, thanks so much for taking the time to sit down and chat today.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Again, I really appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Thank you. And we look forward to the next time, man.
You got it.